Hmm. Oh, 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 sorry. I was sleeping here. What are we doing here? What is it? Oh, trust. Yeah, trust. Yeah, okay. Uh, Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Travis Told You. I am your host, the returning, the clown prince of podcast, the man whose death and retirement has been greatly over-exaggerated. I'm Travis Snell, and oh boy, it is good to be back. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I am here after a long stint, 2.5 months. I think longer, maybe. I can't remember whatever my last cast was, but yeah, I am. I'm here. I'm back on GeekVerse. Obviously, I had done the gimmick, a wrestling show, but that's something that I own completely myself. Get away, GeekVerse. But I was on the gimmick and then did one episode of Marvel Alliance, but that was about it. I did 2.5 months. It's been my longest break. I think any other time I've had kids been the summer. There's always been like, oh, it's Comic Con coming up or our 10 year or something like that. And only a couple weeks break. I think because luckily, I think we're half decent parents. Emily, fantastic mother. So it's always been like, let's see how it goes. And then it's like, okay, well, we figured it out. Back to podcasting. Um, Oh, but now with the twins, needed a little bit more time, and thank goodness for a lot of things. But yes, 2.5 months, a lot of people. Even Emily, she's like, "Oh, you're gonna jump on one of these times," and I don't think I was ever close. I was never close as far as missing out. I'll get to that in a second because I did miss podcasting, but didn't in the same way, and I'll get to why I'm back. Don't get me wrong, I'm here, love it, excited to be doing it again. It's not that. It's more like a life thing, being busy and going back to the job, like the other job later on this week. So there's tons of stuff, but let me just get this out there. Yeah, so as usual, late night podcasting with myself and start off right there. What Travis told you. I'm assuming I'm gonna at least do once a month. My plan right now is to do at least 3 casts a week, and then if there's anything that are Super Bowl, Comic Con, that type of stuff, then I will go. Okay, maybe I'll slide another one there, but I want to keep to 3 because obviously we are very busy with everything that goes on with our kids, now with the twins, now with life, job, the podcasting, filmmaking, everything like that. Just want to have a hobby, play a video game, go to the gym, stuff like that. But a big thank you to one because I took pretty much a social media break. I went on every once in a while, especially when I talked to the GOA and the Gimmick Boy. So you see stuff, and then near the past couple weeks, I've been sneaking back on, seeing some takes here and there, and plus there's sometimes a good tweet, so links it to you. Okay, but for the most part, tried to go cold turkey for a little bit. And yeah, even Emily, I think she was like, oh, I don't think you're going to make it. And I did. So there's two things I wanted to say. One, when I announced it that the twins were here, a big thank you to everyone that sent your well wishes. Let's get rid of that starting soon banner. Yeah, we're back. I'm taking off the Batman robe. See, people probably think I'm lazy. Like, oh, he's just wearing a robe on air. Oh my God. Nah, it's just for the bit. Even though it is fucking right here, there's a window right here. It is freezing. It's -7 right now. The warmest it's supposed to be this week is -9. It's brutal out there. But a big thank you to everybody that sent the well wishes when the twins came here, and then a bigger thank you to everybody that thought when I was retiring or gone. Lots of concerned people. Obviously that was greatly exaggerated to a point. I was attacked. And there's a whole bit to go on that because someone from Geekverse did it or someone paid someone. I'm going to get down to the bottom of it. I did kick Taylor in the balls this weekend. That's just for a life of many things. He probably did it or had Pan Solo paid somebody to put this mask on and do it. That's going to be like a month investigation. But I've signed my new contract. I'm back and I'm here. I ain't going anywhere. And we will get down to the bottom of that. I was going to come back. Then I got attacked. But for the people that did think I was going away, I did very much appreciate that because it's just like, I guess it's the same thing as people that listen to Travis Told You, where it's great to know that, okay, there are some people that care about what I do here. And same thing there. It's one of the things that, hey, if I was gone, would anyone care? I think that's a meme, things people do in movies and stuff like, oh, if I die, oh, God, what was there's some cheesy, like it's a Grey's Anatomy episode or something. I can't remember. Oh yeah, it is when Addison is like, if I went missing, no one would remember, no one look for me, and Krebs like, I'd look for you, and they slept together, and then it didn't work out. But either way, the sentiment was there, right? And that's where the sentiment was for myself, where I appreciate everybody that did reach out, that said, hey, good luck on a separate journey, or they're bummed that it's going anywhere, or even before I announced, or they announced, or whoever announced that there was a retirement, said like, oh hey, can't wait to have you back on. I do appreciate that, and I think that's was one of the nicest things is in my absence that people reached out and said very nice things, more than I would have thought, and nicer than I would have thought. Because you never know. You just say, hey, I could go away, and GeekVerse is great. I got 3 other great hosts, been doing a long time, but it's great to know that, okay, people would still listen to GeekVerse, but go, oh, man, it does suck a little bit, that trash there. So, the Sally Field, you like me. You really like me. That's what happens, Some of you showed your cards. You give me shit. You go, oh, man, get out of here, because, sometimes I've healed up, but no, I appreciate, and I have a new appreciation for all of you, and a new appreciation just for time in general. So yeah, I am here. As usual, everything you need to know is down below, all the links. I'm excited to get back to hosting newscasts because Taylor Field, my God, that's why he deserved the balls. Taylor Field, I always say, heart of GeekVerse, love the guy. We'll get into newscasts, some of the hosting, some of the notes when he asks about news, etc. I go, man, he is like Ron Burgundy, and I will get into it. I was just sitting there like, oh my God, like pull my hair out. What's this man doing? Dylan great, Kirkland great, even though Kirkland constantly getting stuff wrong about Dexter, constantly calling me out. That's the times where I wanted to jump on. Dovetailing it back was I haven't listened to every cast since I've been gone, but some of the shows I've been watching, I've been behind on multiple shows, but when I catch up, I listen to a review here or there. Kirkland, and maybe fucking he had attacked me, I don't know, but Kirkland like poking the bear. They were trying to get me back on, and I appreciate that. Espop says the future Devers tweet with the black and white photo was the best. Yes, it was. Everyone go watch. It's on our YouTube page. The return of Travis Snell. I had a lot of fun making that video. I did have a lot of fun. I did have a lot of people message me being genuinely it was close to 30 people that were genuinely messaging me, and some I talked about what's going on, some I kept them on leash a little bit. I even had Taylor's gonna say no, but there was a day where he thought I was gone, but again, I very much appreciate that. But yeah, I'll be back on news this week. We got the drafts coming up. We got a lot to catch up on, so I'll be back in the rotation. Like I said, 3 to 4. Trav's told you I'm gonna right now just promise to do it monthly. What I wanted to do before the Twins were coming is make it kind of like a special, because we do our newscast. We're going to bring back Weekly Geek because there's just been so much news lately that we get loaded up. So I want to do like my actors tournament or other things. Because before too, it's like I used to talk about wrestling and, check out the gimmick. Me and David and S-Bubs just did 2 episodes last month, and the Royal Rumble one was tons of fun. So if you like wrestling and the wrestling season, go check that out. We'll probably be doing a few more than once a month. We're going to be doing a gaming stream for GM mode. It's good. There's some fun stuff happening with that show. So that's why, like I said before, Travis told you, it's like, well, if news is covered and wrestling's covered, like what am I doing now? And that's why, whether it's something very specific to Travis or a topic, I'm going to do at least once a month. But maybe, like I've said before, if I miss something, that's what's going to happen. And then how's the time off? Again, thank you, everybody. I have some topics I'm going to talk about. Some I'm going to leave for newscasts, reviews, stuff like that. And then some I'll touch upon today, and some that people had sent in. I thank you to everybody that said welcome back and asked how life was. Life is good. This past week, not so much. Everybody took turns being sick. I don't know if we had like a little mini version of COVID, because I don't even know if I ever got, like, anytime there was a test, I never got it. There was times where I felt like I could have been coming on, but it just would go away. I don't know. And luckily, the thing is, I work from home, right? So it's not like oh shit, I might have COVID. What do I do? It's like, well, you just sit at home and you quarantine other people, or like keep away from people, right? So I don't know if we have that. And I had all these plans this week. Like I was supposed to, my hair, I was going to do the Punisher season 2 Daredevil buzz cut. I want to do that like the army cut. Didn't get to do that. I was supposed to have a bunch of cool lights, but I do have video listeners. Look at this. The Defoe Goblin mask on newscast. I'm going to try it on air. Helmets and stuff, they suck. Like replicas, everything. This is one of the most comfortable easy to wear helmets. It detaches and then you open it up and it's like and you put it on. It goes right around your head, so it stays on. It stays on your eyes too, so it's not like moving up and down. And there's cushions back there. It is so comfortable. I think I'm gonna do it for Halloween. Something I don't know, because in a couple of years we're gonna do me and Emily will do Jack and Wendy from The Shining, and the twins of course will be the Ghost Girls, right? But this helmet on news, I'll talk about it perfect. And I love this because I always want this for the cast because it's like, oh, there's the thumbs up. It's like the goblin mask over the shoulder talking. So, um, but this last week, that's why if I sound a little stuffy, it was brutal. They were sick from I think it started like Thursday, Friday, and I went from like a really sore throat for a day, that one way, and then a headache, bad headache for a day, and all like variations of stuffed nose, and then like really stuffy, tons of coughing, and then since I think like Tuesday, I've been on the mend and feeling better, but it sucked. I had like a few things I wanted to get done, and I just couldn't. I didn't have the energy for it, and we just couldn't go because we were sick. And then the girls literally spent the entire week home from school because they had temperatures, couldn't go. So that kind of sucked. And then the twins got a little bit sick, but so the immediate sucked. But how am I doing elsewise? How's twin life going? Man, I will say that I will have a new appreciation, because the first person I messaged when I found out the twins was my great friend Chris Bago, who, like, I don't know if he wants me to say this, but the guy's a fucking principal. Like, congratulate the man. He went from vice principal to principal. Like, what a huge honor that is for him. But that school's very lucky. Chris is one of the best guys I know out there. So that obviously he's never taught me, but he's taught me a lot of other things in life. But I messaged him and talked a little bit twin stuff, and that helped. But it you are not prepared. It's funny, we talked about this, where what would we have rather done? Twins first and then the other babies would have felt easy, or did the three babies get us ready for the twins? Because it is a whole nother thing. I've never been. That's why the profile picture, you can look at it. I've never been more exhausted. And there's a bunch of other stuff too, because the first week, lots of when I say health scares, they're minor, so don't worry. Anything that I'm going to talk about in the future, it's nothing that you can just say, oh, how they doing? Sorry. It's like they're all out of the woods now, all doing great. But the first week, there is, and I don't even want to say complications, because that's stuff that there's even worse stories. While I was in the NICU that I was hearing, like, God, like it's brutal, but it is tiring because it is you got a handoff, you take shifts. So I don't mean this in any offense, but anybody that ever is like, man, we're having a tough time with one child, the only people I'll accept that from is single parents. If you're a single parent, then it's you alone with the kid, baby, whatever, right? But if you got a partner, or if the partner is out of town, right? But if you got a partner, a good partner, not an asshole partner, if you have a good partner that can support you, I can never look in there and think, oh yeah, you're tired, eh? Oh, it's hard, eh? Like, this has been something, and a kudos to anybody. Like, this is where the same thing they could do to me. If anybody's had triplets in their lives, fuck, man, like, it's enough with both of us. Because even right now, where this is the first time I'm casting, and Emily is just spectacular. She's best. I love her. Love my life. Just multiple facets. She's been very supportive. She even was like, even Kirkland Taylor bugging her a bit, but she was like, you can go on earlier. But I was like, no, I want the break. I want to take as much time, because I haven't been working my other job as well either. So this was the first night where it's like, okay, we're going to set you up in the room. You get the double bottles. Here we go. And then the second we sit down, they're just losing it. And that's where it's like, oh, well, and that's what can happen. It's not just one. And, they can set each other off, very twin tuition. So at least, we've found it's, 2.5 months or 2 months with them, 2 months and a couple weeks of them being, alive, and they're, growing, and, we got the rhythm down, find like, okay, this is what you do with this one, etc. The thing is, though, like, I couldn't imagine, at least when I'm out of here for majority of time, and the good thing I work at home, we can still be a tag team, right? I could not imagine someone having a third child and be like, we literally don't have enough hands. Like, we don't have enough. And luckily, my kids are fantastic. A little too fantastic, because they're always wanting to touch, hold, not wake them up, but they don't understand, like, hey, you gotta be quiet. But they're great big sisters, and they're always fighting over who gets to feed what. And yeah, it's great. If I haven't even said, the oldest, the one that's 2 minutes older, Sydney Hart Snell, and then the youngest and the last of the Snell trajectory, because that water main is now closed. We're stopping at 5. The plan was to stop at 4, so 5 was a bonus. Valerie Wren Snell. Sydney Hart Snell comes from Sydney. Is Emily just like the name? I like Scream, which I guess I'll talk about a little bit later, which sucks. But like that original stuff, like name Sydney Prescott is probably my favorite final girl. We'll see what these new movies do, but I'm just gonna think about the trilogy, right? Heart, you guys probably know, it's Bret Hart. Like that's where it came from. We eventually, I can't remember which one had. We had May as a middle name, but the combo of May Snell sounded way too much like May Smell. Emily said that, and I was like, oh, we can't do this. That like like we both said this teasing right away. And then Valerie Ransdell. People, I think I'd hinted about this. We'd never like to reveal names just for luck. I always said, hey, if I have a boy, we're gonna name it Kylo, and she was down for that. Never got Kylo, never got a boy, so that's where Ren came in there. We just liked it, and then Valerie, just another name we just like. We love the Amy Winehouse song. I know it's a cover, but still. So those are the semblance of the names, and yeah, so they came. Um, it was the first time doing a C-section, so that was a lot. Like it was a lot of firsts for us. It was the first twins for C-section, and because it was twins, there's so many doctors, and then so they get them all out and get them all, but one comes out, second comes out, and so Sydney was fine. She was like kind of a small, like a smaller baby for us, but just like regular baby. And then with Valerie, she came, and they had talked to us before because they had said like, "Hey, she's smaller," and that was some of the concern for the last 3 weeks. I think I talked about on originals where I was stressed up high heaven because they're like, she's small, and there's like all these variations of like if she's small to this point, it can lead to here, and that's not good yet. So luckily, by the time we got to labor, it was like, okay, she's smaller, but things are still looking good. But we might have to take her to NICU. That's like a common procedure, right? So you go, okay, that happens. Emily's a champ with a C-section. She's been a champ the whole time, like going through the pain, everything. She's just a boss. For me, and what happens is, so Sydney gets put somewhere else, and Valerie's gonna go to NICU. I'm gonna go with her. At first, though, and it was funny because like Sydney is like if you see her, she's like a regular size, like just a baby, like a small baby. But next to Valerie, she's like massive. You know, she's literally 3 pounds bigger than her now. And like I said, now they're all healthy, but Valerie's at like she's gonna be small. She's not on like the trajectory of other babies. She's healthy. It's like she's just gonna be small. Maybe she'll catch up, but so they bring Valerie out, and it's about the breathing, right? So at first they go, okay, it just looks good. They're like, yeah, I don't even think she needs to go. So I'm like, okay, great. And then they go, okay, well, we're just, and then like time goes on because they're working on Emily, working on the twins, everything. And it's so much of here, take a picture, here, do a weight, here, dad, do this. And it's just like all over. Already, I was like, man, twins. And that's what happens all the time. You just look and you're like, two babies. Like, what I do. Sometimes you just, luckily I don't shut down. I just go, okay, back to work. And that's where I think having the kids beforehand helps. I think if I didn't have the other kids before, you might just shut down and go like, what do I do? This is a battle I can't win. But anyway, so Valerie, like, okay, we think we're gonna take her down just to check. And you're like, okay. And get down there, and you're like, okay, it's gonna be about an hour. And you're like, okay. And they're like, now it's gonna be about 4 hours. And you're like, okay. And the problem was it was her breathing was the issue. And then like, well, she's gonna stay overnight. Now a lot of this stuff is because there are some other things can happen, but that's one thing where it's like them saying this stuff. You put these conditions of like, okay, an hour, 4 hours, and then when it's not happening, you're thinking the worst. And it's one of these things where like when I'm watching, because Emily's with Sydney and I'm in the NICU with her, with Valerie, and I'm watching and she's like breathing, she's like, and I'm like, oh, that's good. Like she's breathing. Cause for a while it was like, that's the thing. Like we gotta watch for the breathing. Right. So I'm trying to watch and I see her just breathing like, oh, thank God she's breathing. That's good. And they're like, no, that's not good. Like you don't want to be breathing like that. And just because we luckily with all the other girls never had that, like the all natural births, no problems, no issues, anything like that. So this was all new for me. Right. So we had to do that. And I don't know if I posted the picture. Maybe I should at some point. But they had, she was in, and it was tough. The whole experience this week, the first week was very tough for me. She was in like a chamber thing, and she had like all these wires on her stomach, on her heart, on her lungs. She had a tube in her mouth. She had a tube in her nose for like feeding stuff. It was tough for me because I know they'd prepare you for that, but for me it was tough where it's like, oh, just a couple hours. And then you think, because in my mind, it's like, oh, they say a couple hours she'll be good. We've reached a couple hours. She's not good. She's staying. And now she's staying overnight. And that's where it was very brutal, where she has to stay there and they got to watch the breathing. And that was probably, and luckily it all worked out, but some of the, barring a death, is like some of the worst time in my life is like, okay, I can't remember what it was. It was like, here's the number, and the breathing can't go above this or below this. I can't remember what it was because it was just like I got no sleep. It was just me looking at this monitor, and when it hits the wrong thing, it would just like beep, And it's tough because they would come by and be like, "Oh, don't worry about the beeping." But one, it just triggers you. You can't sleep and you're just worried all the time. And two, it's like, don't worry about the beeping. It does that. But then there's times like the beeping you do have to worry about, but it's like the exact same sound. So you don't know because I'm a normie, right? So I just remember all night I'm sitting in the chair and just looking at this monitor. Might get some sleep every once in a while, but when I'm like, and a shout out to the doctors and nurses, all great people, right? But there's times like the doctor would come and I'd be sleeping, and she'd go, "Oh, how are you doing?" And I wake up, and she, "Oh, no, 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 you go back to sleep. You can sleep." But it's like, then why did you touch my shoulder and say, "How are you?" Like, and I'm like dead to the. I'm a skeleton. I'm laying there, like clearly I'm asleep. So it's just funny, like wake me up, like, "Oh no, no, go back to sleep." So that was really tough. Like it was a real like I was there's a couple nights Emily I think handles that stuff better than me, and it was just tough because I wanted out of there, and it was weird to be like, "Hey, we're having twins. What's that gonna feel like?" For the first 48 hours, it didn't really feel like we had twins because like Emily was in her room over there, and then I was in NICU. I don't go back and forth, but I didn't want to leave her there alone. So and same thing with Emily. Emily didn't get to see her for I can't remember. I think she saw her once and for 24. It was like that. Here's Valerie. We take her, and then it was a long time later till she got to see her again. And she I think handled a lot better than me, but it was really tough. So it was like I have another child, in a ward that I've haven't even seen or held, but it's like, no, you have two children. So it's like a weird, and everyone's talking to you and they're trying to be reassuring and everything. And that was the tough thing too, is once eventually Valerie started to breathe well, they're like, okay, well, we want to do feedings, right? So Emily's somewhere else, and then she's, Emily Sydney, different ward, me and Valerie, different ward. So we got to either walk her, which they want her to walk sometimes, or even wheelchair. But it was tough because like you have to feed Sydney, get all the way over there, get all her wires and everything, feed her, and then get back. And the whole time, they're like, make sure you get rest, make sure you sleep. Sleep's the most important thing. But it's like by the time we fended everything back and forth, we'd be sitting down. It's like, you got 45 minutes till we have to start again, especially with Valerie. It was like, well, they got to be 3 hours. Like, it has to be 3 hours. We got to get this going, all that help. So that stuff was brutal, right? So, but luckily, and what was brutal too is, this is where I'll like completely downplay it. And we luckily like it went up, the breathing got better, everything like that. But there are another group in there, another like parents that were waiting for like a transplant for their kid. And then there's another, I don't know what the situation was, but there's another baby where it was out of the woods now, but they're like, oh yeah, that like whatever the date of they said something, and they're just like, your guys' situation is the ones we have nightmares about. And I'm just sitting here, I'm going, okay, one, I do have it better, luckily, but it's also just like I'm in the NICU with these people. It's like you start to do that of like all these people have really bad shit going on, and I'm here. Does that mean like this could turn to really awful shit? And luckily it didn't, but it was like it was a very tough 48 hours. I've never been so mentally exhausted, and also no sleep there, and like the food's awful. And thank God for my family and sister and people that would bring food and everything, but sometimes you don't even want to eat. So it was awful. So everything, it's fine. We eventually get them in the same room, and then it just gets to like, all I can just say, it's very tiring. It's like every like feeding, cluster feeding, being awake, two of them and everything. Luckily, you do try and get them on the same schedule, but it's still just like no one gets a break. It's not like now we kind of, there's sometimes where I'm like, hey, Emily can sleep, I can handle the two, or Emily will do vice versa, right? But at the beginning, it's very tough. So we get to go home, and that was a little iffy on, because they're like, you're in the NICU, you got twins, you're gonna be staying at least to the weekend, right? So it's like on a Thursday or Wednesday, they tell us this. And then Friday rolls around and they're like, yeah, we think you're gonna go home. And it's like, okay. And I'm again taking that as, I guess Valerie's doing really well. And then I can't remember what it said, but some nurse said something where it definitely, like, me and Emily picked up on. I was like, okay, it's being like, it's because it's overcrowded. It's not because like Valerie has like oh, she's great, great, good to go. It's like, no, like we're very busy and we think you guys are good to go. So that's something where it's like, okay, if it works out, that's fine. But where it doesn't work out, so we have them on the Wednesday. I'm in the NICU Wednesday, Thursday. Thursday she does come over, and then Friday we're out of there. And then we're home for Saturday and Sunday. Then I can't remember if it's, and then I think, yeah, Monday. Okay, so we're home Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And I only told a few people about this. So Saturday, fine. We're just at home living life. Same thing a bit Friday night, trying to figure it out. The girls were in Vernon. So they were very excited to see them. We were very excited to have them home. We were missing them. They're going to be coming back the Monday. So what happens is the Sunday is, I'm not sure how it works in America or Britain, but like they have home nurses that come in and check the babies, right? Make sure everything's going all good. They come, they do the weights and everything, and they go, okay, Valerie's losing weight, which is not what you want because she's already a small kid who had breathing issues, right? So it's like she's losing weight. And let's see, I actually think it was like she hadn't gained weight. So it's like, okay, we're going to come, because usually it's like weekly, but this was like, we're going to come back tomorrow and see. So come back tomorrow, the Monday, and that's when they go, okay, she's actually losing weight. And we were doing everything, the feeding, everything, but it was tough with her because she was so little, and there was some jaundice too, where she would fall asleep, and that was tough too. Is just trying to keep her awake and feed. Now it's warm a bottle, boom, feed, 10, 15 minutes, burp, get her ready, good to go. I can't remember how long these feeds were because she would have a little bit and fall asleep, have a little, and you don't want that because it's just like, well, if you're not eating, like you're gonna get sick. You're not gonna make it with how little you are. So the night nurse talks to our doctor, and then our doctor's literally like, "You guys got to go right back to the hospital," and not to like, oh, just for a checkup. It's like pack a bag, and it's all ready to be. And everyone, if you've had a kid or just been in the hospital, you know what it's like to be in the hospital and then just want to get home, and then to get home is just such a relief, right? It would have been different if it would have sucked, but if we would have been there from Wednesday to Wednesday in the hospital, that would have sucked, but it would have been better. That relief of getting home, and of course, we're going to the hospital because we want to, you know, the best for our children, right? But to go at home and be in your own bed and try and get a routine. And same thing for me is like we were finally like a family, a unit, because it's like, okay, we're all together finally now after a couple days of back and forth and stuff. So we go back to the hospital. We got to go to emergency, and this is where it's just like I fucking hated every second of everything that went on. There is a funny story in the middle, but so we get in there, and luckily we get fast tracked in because the doctor said like obviously it's a 3-day old baby who's losing weight that already had some issues. Get them in, and here we go. So they stripped them down and everything. And they put them in these warming chambers, which they liked. It was it was brutal because they had to put the tubes back in her, and when the first go around it was fine, because not fine, but like she was smaller, so it was just like very easy. This is like a couple days of life I'm feeding, so it was brutal because it's just like and it's just Valerie because Sydney was fine. They're checking up on her. They said, "Oh, just bring her in so we can take a look too." But like, it's just like squealing. At one point, she pulled it out, so I had to put it back in and tape, and it was really tough for me because you're just hearing like this baby, just an immense pain. And same thing, it was like that was the thing too of like getting all these wires off her and everything. It's like, okay, she can finally be like a little baby kid, like normal. And then it's like back this. So it was all this stuff where I'm just, and I'm mad because, like I said, now in retrospect, I'm playing it back in my head of like knowing it's overcrowding while we got sent home. Not because it's like, oh, like, and sure, she was, I guess, good enough, but it's like, that's what's making me more mad because I'm jumping some beats in the story. But then, so what happens is they go, okay, well, because Emily's had C-section, she's not supposed to, drive. She's not supposed to lift things other than the babies. Even then, not supposed to do all this stuff. So their solution is, well, how about Valerie stays here, dad stays here, and mom goes home. And it's just like the beginning when they're like, make sure you get as much rest as possible, but we need you to do this, this, and this. It's like, well, there's only so much we can do. So it's the same thing of like, okay, you want her to go home alone with like day 3 C-section, 4 or 5 with post C-section, huge traumatic surgery to the body, and me to be here. Luckily, my mom and Phil don't know we live in a big house, and my mom has moved in downstairs. Help with twins has been a godsend, and that helped out a lot because she drove and everything, and it's been great for just like payments wise, everything has been great. It's been, the kids love having her here. It's been a great situation. So we do this, and so it's like, you're gonna sleep here, and then the kicker is, oh, but we don't have any rooms. So what I gotta do, me, because obviously Emily's not gonna do this, we're gonna sleep in this room that's like, I'm terrible with measurements, but the size of it was like this background here, it was looking like just a square version of this, and I got a stretcher to sleep on. Brutal. And it's also like, I'm dead tired mentally, I'm dead tired physically. I'm gonna have this terrible sleep on the stretcher. And then the same thing, she has all these tubes in her, I gotta feed her, and of course I'm gonna do it, but she has all these tubes in her. She's in like the jaundice, I can't remember what it is, but it's like this new chamber where they put her in, and all these lights are on her to get the jaundice out of her, because that could make her fall asleep or lose weight, all this stuff. So that's where it's like, oh man, this is brutal. And being in the ER, it's just because they shift change so much and they're going back around. They will be like, okay, Emily and Travis, tell us why you're here, beginning to end, go. And then literally 15 minutes later, new Dr. K, tell us why we're here. go. And I talked to Emily, and she made a good point where it's like they do that so they don't think you're lying or making something up or whatever it may be, right? But I'm not lying. When we at least had, I think it was 7, maybe at least 6 different doctors within an hour and a half, and it's just we would tell the same story. And luckily, Emily took over because I had enough of it, and it's just like we have a file. All these doctors would write the same thing, they'd leave, and then it starts over again, and you just feel like you're not getting help. And I'm definitely the person that responds. Again, another Grey's Anatomy reference, the Christina Yang character, where it's no like the person has no heart and just wants to get to the medical stuff. I actually do better with that. I don't like, especially in this moment, I'm stressed. I'm sitting there crying because I don't know what's gonna happen with my daughter. She's getting all like getting this tube, and she's in a bunch of pain, like a bunch of stuff's going on for me mentally, right? And they're trying to like, oh, 5 kids. Like I know some people might like that. I don't. I don't want the small talk. I don't want to do that. So at one point, I was really rude to one nurse, and like because they're like, I'm there. I'm holding Valerie's hand. I'm crying. She's very distressed. And like, oh, and how's Dad doing tonight? And I didn't say I just looked at her and didn't say a fucking word. And Emily like, oh, like it's been a tough go. Emily, again, my rock, because I was just over like, and it's also just like you gotta read the room. You see, I'm upset. Maybe have a different approach. I'm not there to small talk. Just help my fucking kid and let's move on. And that's where I'm completely fine. You don't need the bedside manner. You don't need to be my friend. Just tell me what's going on. So we get in this emergency room, and the emergency room, same thing. It's like we're in the emergency, we're in the ER, so it's you have a sliding door, but it's loud. It's things are going on, just like before we got admitted. Beside us, oh my god! So this is the only saving grace where this is all happening. This traumatic stuff for me. And next to us, me and Emily can hear because it's like a curd. It's a curtain in like a couple feet, right, of a door. So like there's obviously another room, and there's this guy talking about that he's at a restaurant and he got some steak stuck in his throat, and he can't. It's lodged in there. He can't get it out, and they're doing all these things. And then so what they're gonna do? They're gonna vacuum it out. So while we're just sitting there, disheveled, right? Like we're getting readmitted, we're getting split up again. We'd finally got back together, and we're getting split up again for a few days. They have the tube and they put the tube. We're not seeing this. We're just hearing this. And like, okay, it's gonna hurt a lot. Let us know. The most horrid sounds you've maybe heard. It sound like a saw trap. Just okay, let's know. Oh, 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 and like, and you can hear the steak coming. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm still getting over a cold. But you can just hear the steak getting sucked through this man's lungs, and he is in immense physical pain. I mean, we were just sitting there trying not to laugh, but it was horrid. Of just we're watching our kids, like, and it was awful. They got it out luckily, and his mom did come pick him up, but it was brutal. So a little shining light, but then eventually we did get there, and of course the ER when we get to pediatrics. Oh, you guys had twins and were NICU? Why were you home? Why are you home? And like they're not saying that an accusatory thing. They're like, why were you sent home? It's one of these things where likely if someone else would have been there or someone made a call, it would have been great. Someone would be like, maybe, we're overcrowded, but we maybe can't send these people home. So I was mad. And that went to my family. My dad, who has worked in this field before, he's like threatening to come down because he knows people KGH and this, that. Love my dad. Luckily, I didn't enact that. I did. There was a day I said to him, I'm like, hey, if I get bullshit around one more time, because it just felt like I knew something wasn't. It's like, oh, we're going home. It's like, yeah, you're good to go. But it's like I knew, like, I don't know about this, and I'm trusting nurse, doctor, and majority, I'd say like 90% of them, all great, very helpful, right? But that's where I am. My dad was like, okay, I have a point, and luckily, my dad's like, I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna go do this, this, and this. But I'm like, no, hold off. I'm glad I did because eventually we're in. And same thing too. It's like I'm in this emergency room, terrible sleep. Get there in the morning, like, yeah, 8 a.m. you're gonna get a room, and that's like we don't get a room till 2. And that's the thing. I wish they would just not give me any update. It's like 8 a.m. and then I'm waiting there at 8 a.m. pack my stuff, ready to go with my baby. I don't see anyone till like 10, and I get it, right? It's the emergency. As of right now, Valerie's vitals are fine, they're doing well and everything like that, but it's still just like I've heard from nobody. Where that's not the case when you have a room in the doctors, because you're on the ward and you have like the round stuff. Emergency, you're just going. So that got annoying, and then we got up there. And then eventually Emily came to visit, and then they just said, "Yeah, you're going to be here a few more days." But then she did stay in the room, and then we got a room together. They're like, "Oh, you might have to share it," which is always a bad situation. Luckily, we didn't have to because we had no curtain. And then eventually, all this stuff happened, and she is a okay. She's very tiny. She's on the smaller side, but all worked out. But for that week, it was the Wednesday to Wednesday where we were home for 2 days, and it was all hospital time and all like bad hospital time, and it was very it was definitely the toughest thing I've had to go through yet. I know there's tougher things I'll have to go through eventually with obviously, certain people passing in life, things like that. But as right now, that was a lot for me to handle all at once. And again, kudos to parents that definitely had work. Like I said, I couldn't imagine like the people in there waiting for their kid to get a transplant. Their kids there every day until like the baby's there every day until it happens. It's like fuck, like that's so much worse than what I'm going through. So again, I that's why perspective, right? I say worst thing I've ever been through. There's so many other people there that's like probably that what I went through is a walk in the park. But like I said, I'm a baby. I never went through any of that stuff with the other kids, right? So, but luckily everyone's good now. We've gone to the doctor checks. Emily's good. Babies are good. So it's all on the up and up now. But that was my first week where it was tough. And same thing, and we really want to see the girls. That was very tough on Emily not seeing the girls. And it was the same thing of like, oh, not today, not today, not today. And they wanted to see us if we want to get back in a routine. And yeah, it was something. It was a tough time. Tried to have as much class as possible as state guy, and it was great to have the babies. But you could it just felt like the whole time you could not, and I couldn't enjoy it. At least I tried to, but it was just not. I couldn't enjoy it till we were like officially out of the woods, and there was many people like same thing in my life that I had. And funny enough, like when I had posted publicly, like oh, twins, everything like that, it was literally that day when we got the visit, like yeah, you guys are probably going back, and it's like, oh, I wouldn't have said anything at that point, right? And luckily everything worked out. But yeah, that was the first week. First week was fucking brutal, and I don't wish it upon my worst enemy. Not that I have a worst enemy. I know it's a saying, but it's like I don't know, like Taylor? No, no. Like I mean, like fit like a real worst enemy. Like I don't know. Like luckily, that's nothing that is in my life. So I hope. No, I guess Travis Smells. He came back in the gimmick chat, which I know some people might think is me, but it's not. Like I know I have a lot of fun and run some multiple accounts sometimes to have some magic tricks, but I've never like done the Travis Smells thing. That's a somebody, which I think it is Taylor. To me, I think it is, has been trolling me since 2016, and they always come back like every few years, and they came back in the gimmick. But yeah, so that's what happened the first week, and it was crazy. And yeah, now we're adjusting, we're figuring out. Like I said, we're getting in summer routine now. This week will be a new routine of okay, podcasting and then job. Here we go, and that's a tough thing, and that's the other thing too. When it's the two babies, the same thing. I'd be like, oh, I'm gonna edit the second movie a lot. I barely got to. Oh, I'm gonna have all this writing done because that happened a lot with the other babies, right? Like because you'd be back and forth, but the big time we're asleep, you're like, good. Now it's like, oh, one's sleeping, oh, one's awake. Literally before we went in there, like I got Valerie down and I looked over, I'm like, oh, Sydney's asleep too. Perfect. Went downstairs, talked to the girls and come up. Sydney's losing her mind. It's like, oh, okay, you're up. And you just kind of have to go, all right, like you can't be mad. You can't be like almost tired because like you're a baby as well. Like like for you, this is all you know, right? So and they've been great. They're so cute. Sydney's very sensitive. She was someone that if a door closed or the toilet flushed the hospital, lose her mind. Her own farts scare her. So it's that sort of way. But she's also very silly. She's always you can get a smile out of her. She's a big smile. Yeah, she's a very funny kid. And then Valerie, who's luckily now smiling. She's like, I feel like she's always gonna be a little step behind because she's smaller, but she's very spicy, very strong. That's one thing I remember. Even when they were the first day in the NICU, they're like changing her cords, and she like threw her arms up and like pushed hands away, and she was like stronger than Sid, who has like 3 pounds on her. She's a strong kid, and yeah, when she's mad, she's fucking mad. She's gonna let you know, but she's very like it sounds weird to say this about like a 2 month old, but like the look she gives you very inquisitive, like studying you and not, but it's like it's hard to get a smile out of her. It's hard to like it's not easy like city make a couple and like she's just like giddy. Her, you gotta work for it, but when you get it, it's like oh, and she's like she looks like a little monkey too, like a little orangutan, and then Sid looks like we've called her like the grouchy turtle. She looks like a little turtle tortoise, but it's great. I'll definitely post more pictures that I'm back on social media and everything. And yeah, it's been great to see their personalities, but it's been great to see like it is weird stuff like they sleep better together. You know, like they'll be alone and then you put them together. Oh, they can sense each other's there easier. They cuddle up. Like it is funny that whole like twin tuition, that bonding. They're not like this is something I learned. You don't get to find out if they're identical. Like the hospital doesn't tell you that. At least in Canada, you have to test for that yourself, and it's tough because when they're first born, we're like, oh, we think they're identical, and then as weeks were going on, we're like, oh, we don't think so, and then even this week, we're like, damn, they look a lot alike because it's like even though they came out at the same time, like Valerie's like kind of like it's almost like in weeks probably sounds bad, like overzealous, but like days. Like there is a difference because she's so tiny. She's behind the curve of Sydney, right? So it's like we really won't know until they get older. I don't think we need to test because like I don't care if they're identical or not. But if people want to ask, that's why. So it's like we don't know, but they look very similar at least, and they look very similar to their sisters. And I think they're gonna be variations of Ginger. So, um, yeah. So it's just been getting used to that, and it's been a fun time. I'm very not looking forward to going back to work. And that's where saying the podcast is never that I didn't want to come back to this. There was definitely a time where Taylor, I think he asked me like a month in, like, oh, you ready to come back? I'm like, no. Just because it was on this thing of like, uh, no, and I love doing it. But there was taking a break from it for this long. I could watch 3 episodes of Skeleton Crew and not have to watch it at this time. You get back to get off work, make dinner, gotta watch a show, gotta get the kids ready, podcast, sleep, and it's like I didn't do anything other than and like luckily the podcast is like fun work, right? That's the second job I don't want to stop. That hopefully we grow, and same thing with the filmmaking, right? But it's like it's when the job comes in, and that's where the job was kind of like taking care of the twins, right? So that's where it's not like I didn't miss it, but I was like I'm very content not to come back right now. Where now it's like, okay, I'm more one way because the kids, but had more of an itch. But it's also like, okay, I got a game plan, and I'm just excited to get back. But that's why I will be on less stuff too. Like I won't be on like no, for like Andor, there's an example where I'm gonna pick and choose my episodes, not based on best. I'm just gonna say like, hey, this week I can be on, but this week I can. Where before it's like I gotta be in every one. Obviously, we cover each other, which is great because we got the 4 of us. But you will probably see me a lot less on those type of reviews. Cause I'll take some skipping. But that's a good thing when we have the what we've been watching segment on GeekVerse, right? Where it's like if I've seen it and want to talk about it, here we go. Same thing like Dexter. I'm gonna be on the last 2 episodes, so Mike, I will answer one of your questions about Dexter, but I'll give most of my thoughts on the next episode. So that's where I might miss a couple reviews and then be like, okay, I'm back. I think the bigger, reviews, those are ones I'll make sure. Same thing in newscasts. That's where we're doing Weekly Geek, where we're gonna have days where or weeks where it's like Dylan and Taylor, Taylor and Kirkland, Dylan and myself and Taylor. We're still gonna try to. There'll always be a Geek First episode a month with all 4 of us. If there's lack of shows or reviews, then you'll get more of them. But we're finding a way that okay, lots of life changes going on right now. How can we try to make it that we're still putting out a good amount of content? We still want to do our coverage, but it's not an over workload for everybody, and that's where we're gonna make some changes. But I think you guys will like them. We'll always be together and stuff. Sam Hughes says, "Girl, Dad, Final Boss. Hope it's all going well. It is now. Thank you, Sam. I think I saw you, whether it's on the YouTube video or the gimmick. You said something. I didn't get to acknowledge you because there was too much going on. I literally was trying to end the episode, and Liz texted me like, "Hey, you almost done?" Because twins were freaking out. So that's where you'll sometimes see me like, "Okay, I gotta sneak away." Hopefully not on Trash Told You, but that's why those are gonna be pre-recorded. But yeah, I'm back, and I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Talk about Pencil and Attack, bastards. Scar somewhere around there, pan in the head. Sick. I guess it's a baking sheet, but still sick and tired of that. But yeah, things are going well with the girls. Things are going well with the other girls. They're all, other than they were sick, they're all doing great. They're all big sisters, great big sisters, and it's been fun. I got some good fun stuff to talk about them on side quests because I've been getting into some video games. So tune out to the next time on side quests, just me and Dylan. That'll be a good episode. And then yeah, so it's like, what have I missed? What have I don't know, lots happened, Batman delayed, Superman trailer, stuff like that. But I'm going to go to the questions first because I love my people. Actually, I do, but I'm going to say these 2 things because I don't want to forget. The Scream stuff that's been going on, because that's something I will forget. No one asked about it, but I just want to talk about because we didn't talk about the news because, like, those guys don't want to Scream. And it's like, man, it feels just like Marvel in a sense where we all worry like is what's the pickle? Oh God. Doomsday. See, I'm so out of the game. Doomsday, we're like, is that gonna be the rise of Skywalker for Marvel? That's what Scream feels like. They're bringing back all these killers. I'm super disappointed. I was disappointed in everything that's happened, right? With Melissa and stuff. But now, even with Patrick Dempsey, the fact that they in canon said, oh, she's married to Mark, but now they just got a new character named Mark and gave it to him or gave it to what's his name? Oh God. I'm not gonna remember his name. I see his face. I know he's in Spider-Man 2. He's in the banker, Joel McHale. Uh, they gave it to him, and Dempsey wouldn't come back, which is fine enough. He's in Dexter, but that was a big letdown, especially now they're making it like it feeling like an end game Scream. I don't know what's going on in this franchise. I know all these killers are back. I think it's just hallucinations or flashbacks. I think flashbacks is risky because I know you can de-age, but I don't know about that. It's probably someone's son or stepbrother or twin brother, whatever it may be. I think they just really got to hit the nail on the head with this one because I think a lot of people are tuning out or gonna tune out if it is bad. And I think there's already a lot of people that are down on. I'm even down on it now. I was really excited for Patrick Dempsey because I thought there was more stuff to do with him and the Sidney Prescott character. Now I just worry he's gonna be like the law of diminishing returns. And I've always said that I do not want Sydney. I have a daughter named Sydney. I do not want Sidney Prescott to be killed. I don't want her to get the Nancy treatment, Nightmare on Elm Street. She's a character that's been targeted since she was 16 years old or whatever. She should get like a happy ending. And I don't want to be like her husband's the killer. That like I think there's lots of room for error. And even then, Kevin Williamson, he's not directed that much, right? So I think there's tons of room for error, and that just keeps coming. And Patrick Dempsey not being it, I know it sounds weird, but it was like the first step. So that's one. And then I will transition to talk about Dexter a little bit, and I'll get into Mike's question because, so with Dexter, that news of James coming back or James Remar, I'm not on a first name basis with the actor that plays Harry, um, the kid that plays Harrison, and then Angel. It's funny because I listened to the newscast and the boys felt like not too excited about it. What gets me excited about this and like minor spoilers for the show, or big spoilers for the show Dexter. So skip ahead like 5 minutes if you don't want to watch it. But like obviously he's not dead because they're making a show, right? They done the fake death thing. They did New Blood and they killed him off, and now he's back because it's called Resurrection, right? What I did, because this is something I won't maybe talk. I'll talk about a little bit on the Dexter review. I did my first ever machete order where I decided, okay, I think I said this when we are doing New Blood, like it'd be fascinating to watch Dexter 1 to 4 and skip all the like mid, like there's some good seasons in there, some bad seasons, but lots of middling stuff, right? And then just go right to New Blood. Surprisingly, it worked very well because multiple times in the season 4 finale, even Harry is telling him just to run away, start over, and then in New Blood, it's him as like, as a hidden lumberjack, stuff like that. It worked very well, and it was very fun to go from that aspect. And what I've said before, and people will hear me have to repeat this in the future, but with Dexter, he's supposed to be killing people that hurt the innocent. And then eventually, he did kill some people that were innocent. And then even New Blood, he kills this call that's super nice to his son, super nice guy, no reason to die other than he's selfish, doesn't want to get caught. So with the idea of the show being Resurrection and Harry being back, the reason I was excited is because to me, Harry is his moral compass. And that's the only thing I think we'll see what have to happen. But Dexter to me should be on like a redemption tour of like, okay, I killed this innocent man. I didn't die. For some reason, the world wants me here. I got to just go back to killing all the bad guys, right? And I think that's where Harry being back is great. And watching the show again, I know he's in Original Sin, but watching the show again, having Angel back, like that is a big core emotional element of the show. And especially to Dexter, one of my favorite lines of the show is, if I could be like a human, a real human, I'd choose to be like you. And Batista's like, thanks. I have no fucking idea what you're talking about, but thanks. Him catching him on the hunt, because he's got to catch him. That to me is setting up a really fun show potentially, right? I think there's lots of other issues of a guy trying to hide his identity and go to New York. That doesn't make sense. Uma Thurman in the show, that's great. But I think there's tons of stuff, and there's tons of things they might do that, I'm not saying they have to do what I say, but I don't think there's many routes. It's like the Scream thing of like, there's lots of room for error going on. But these castings, like that was a big thing in New Blood. We were like, oh, we didn't get enough of Angel. We want him more. Well, he's a series regular. So it's like, oh, that's fantastic. That's great. So I'm very excited to see where that all goes. Excited to see the first few episodes of it. And yeah, he's got to get caught because that's the thing where he would have rather died than get caught. So this guy who's killed innocent people should get the treatment of the worst thing possible. The thing he's scared the most about is going to prison. Go to prison. Original Sin, I'll say my thoughts. I'll give it a little taste that I I'm with everybody other than Kirkland and Taylor because they are enjoying it a lot, right? And even before I rewatched the shows like 1 to 4 and then New Blood, I've seen Dexter many, many times. That's a top three favorite. At one point, it was my favorite show. Now it's climbed back up. I had it out of the top 10, but New Blood made it get back in there. Don't know where it is now, but that's the thing where it's I know it not like the back of my hand, but pretty close. So the inconsistencies of that show, a lot happens in there that is an issue, which I will talk about. And for me, what the problem is, it just makes it feel lazy. I hate that one is Clyde Phillips, who was there for the originals, and two, like all the stuff's there. And I know there was some writers' response that was like, oh, sometimes the show we viewed the narrative as from Dexter's point of view, but it wasn't real. Nope, bullshit. At no point in the show did they ever set up him being an unreliable narrator. That never happened. You can't go back on that because you lazily want to be like, we want to do the story, but it doesn't fit. Fuck it, let's do it. So I have some issues there. I think the show is like the episodes are always good to find. I don't think there's a great episode. I think there's some great things about it. Like I said, I'll do a deeper dive when we do a full review because I want Taylor and Kirkland to bounce off them. But I think there's stuff that bugs them a lot more or bugs me a lot more than them. And that's why I've bugged Kirkland the whole time. But it's the same way, go back when we did our Lord of the Rings review. There's tons of stuff that would bug him that. I'm like, oh, whatever. And for me, why I thought it was fine is because they're adapting the books. Like this is something, it is the books, but it's a little bit different. This is not adapting Dexter. This is not rebooting. This is a prequel, pre-continuation of the show. You can't just start doing different things, different era changes or year changes just because like, well, we're in a pickle and we don't know how to write it. No, that's how you become better writers. Okay, how do we do this? Well, let's sit down, figure it out, and not just go, well, that doesn't matter because it's just hair, or it's just the time of year, or it's just this, or this actor didn't do this, and for cast wise, I think it's a mixed bag. I think there's some people that are great. I think even Patrick Gibson, I think, is a mixed bag. I think there's some things he does very well. I think there's some things he does very poorly. And again, I'll get more in those specifics when we get to the actual episode. But I think he has gone better as episodes have gone on. But I think the show is like, if you look at all the seasons, it's like bottom 3 Dexter. There's a lot of stuff that it goes a lot into the older Dexter too, where things just happen and he gets away with things very easily, and that's really annoying. Where seasons 1 to 4 were a bit more tight. They always had some suspension of disbelief, but then seasons like 5 to 7 were way more of like, remember when Dexter like killed the guy at the airport? It's like, what? Again, and that happens in this show. So it's definitely a mixed bag for me. I'm hoping that Resurrection is not that, because overall I liked New Blood more on a second watch, especially after watching everything. So Super Mike says, so basically Clyde Phillips' order since he left showrunner after season 4, came back for New Blood and moving forward. Yeah, that's what happened, because what happened was his... hopefully I'm not speaking not out of turn. I thought it was public knowledge, or if I'm wrong, but I believe the story was he was there from 1 to 4, and I think his wife became ill. I don't know what happened. I think she survived at that point. I don't know, but he stepped away for family matters. And then it was Scott Buck, he show ran Iron Fist the first season. He show ran the fucking Inhumans, and he's not doing much. Scott Buck, not great. He was a writer on the show, but did not need to be the showrunner. So I think that's what's interesting with New Blood is there's some references to Hannah and other things that happened post 4. Absolutely. But even the Hannah thing, he never even says like that he loved her or they were dating in New Blood. Like, it's just like, it could have been a person watching Harrison. Like, I literally think 95% of that show, okay, I'll say 90% of that show works after 1 to 4. There's a few things where, oh, that doesn't make sense. But same thing of just like, oh, they talk about him, leading to LaGuerta's death. It's just like, oh, you could put together that he snapped, or even Deb. It's like you'd wonder, oh, why is she dead? But most of them it worked really well. So I do feel like Clyde is really doing his Dexter stuff. But that's what's annoying is he is a part of the original Sin team, and they're like making little errors with his stuff. You know, that's what's frustrating me. And it's not like George Lucas' prequels where he adds something where you go, oh, that's different. Where here's somewhere I don't have a problem with, a little peek to my review. Harry having a son before and losing him. I have no problem adding that to the canon. It's like, hey, that doesn't impact the show. It makes me look differently at Harry, and it's something that's completely different, which Christian Slater, that's the stuff that bugs me when I listen to the next review with Kirkland and like, yeah, feels just like Harry. I'm like, man, you need to watch the show again because this is not Harry. And I know even Kirkland made the point of like, well, I wouldn't want that exact Harry because it wouldn't be interesting. It's like, for me, it's like I watch all those episodes of Harry and Dexter, and it's interesting. And I would love to see a real life Harry reacting to this stuff, like the one we knew and loved. That would be very interesting. Christian Slater is just Christian Slater. It's such a. That's why it's so weird, and that's why there are times it feels very like fan film ish, which is not good. So that's where it's like adding new stuff. That's fine. Maybe like Metachlorians, right? Or I don't know, just anything they did with Vader. Obviously, some of the Vader stuff was awful, but I'm just saying, adding things, sure. Taking little detours or, 1B or 1A, it's like even how Harry's gonna die, they screw that up. And I know, Kirkland and Taylor bug me like, oh, it's just the wig. It's like, it's not just about the wig, it's just the timing of it when it takes place, certain things. It's tough when you do a prequel, and that's why I hate prequels. I would like if this was just a new series, but I digress. I will be on the penultimate episode and the finale, so I'll get more into it. Excited to talk about with those guys. This last episode was tons of fun, lots of good Easter eggs, so that's interesting. Let's see. Mike also said, welcome back. Hope your time's good with family, new babies, not too exhausting. It was, but we figured it out, so thank you. Love your thoughts on Skeleton Crew and Dexter. Okay, so perfect. Skeleton Crew, I think it was something where we got that first trailer and I liked it, and then there was like a second trailer where I think I said like, oh, I'm out, not really looking forward to this. Skeleton Crew, now I don't think it's gonna get season 2 because the ratings are low, but that is, to me, it's always tough with Force Awakens because I love Force Awakens by itself, but then what it leads to, it hurts a little bit. So that's why I'll put Force Awakens. It's still my favorite. I'll just say this: it's a mixing order. Skeleton Crew to me is in my top 3 for Disney Star Wars, and I also think it is the best version of what Star Wars could be with Disney. I think Andor is the best thing that Disney Star Wars has created, right? But you can't have, as much as I love Andor, no, the movies couldn't be like that. Like that's not for everybody. Especially there is still supposed to be like a childlike or family fun aspect to these movies, right? That's not Andor. I put on Andor for my kids. Like, let's watch this. They're gonna be out quicker than you can say the word Bespin. Skeleton Crew, they absolutely love. That was like event television. And another thing that was huge was when the shows started coming, we're watching all of them together, right? And Emily was watching because she's a fan of Star Wars, not like a main fan, but she was watching them. After Obi-Wan, she was out. I don't think she hated Obi-Wan, but it's just like it was not appointment TV for her. It was like she watched and maybe asked me or I'd tell her about it, but didn't really care. And she'd see Mando, but like had no more connection to be like, okay, I want to continue stuff. Skeleton Crew, she really liked, and they hit the nail on the head of like it is that Amblin meets like Amblin Goonies ET sort of vibe, and for me it was perfect. Now, of course, that's more it's kid oriented because the kids are the main characters, right? But even take out that aspect of the Amblin part, just the vibe and the look and the feel. That to me is like do what they did. Like the Jude Law character, sure, there's kid leads, but the Jude Law character, what a piece of shit. I thought, oh, he's gonna be in the fun Jack Sparrow type, right? Absolutely not. Like there was moments of that, but really, like a very tragic, charming, dangerous character that is you could redeem, of course, but did a lot of unredeemable, one of those things in that show. And to me, it was a perfect blend of like the practical and the like visual effects, CGI, everything like that. I thought it was great where they had Easter eggs where they talk about the old Republic or other things, but it didn't feel like, and also I knew Luke Skywalker. Luke? I'm not saying that's wrong, like completely wrong, right? But I do think if you're looking at, okay, who knows what the fuck's happening with these movies? Everyone knows how I feel about like popular leads with Star Wars. I don't like it. Love Ryan Gosling. I think there is a time if he puts his mind to it, he could give a performance to be like he's the best actor in the world. I think we've seen that he has such a variety, and that's where people when they're like, "Oh, this guy," like they are treating him like Ryan Reynolds. Well, even Ryan Reynolds, I think, gets treated pretty harsh. Like he has some range, but yes, Ryan has a little less range than a lot of other people, right? Ryan Gosling has so much range. So for people to be like, "Oh, we know what it's gonna be," it's like, no, we don't. Now it's very likely it could be a Fall Guy type of role, sure, but it could be anything because this guy Bag of Tricks is like he has more. He has even shown us, right? So for me, that's great, but I hope it is a very great performance because for me, I don't like the leads of I do just see Ryan Gosling. I like to get lost in world. Marvel and DC, I'm fine with that, maybe because we've had so many variations, but when it's the world of Star Wars, I like that magic. The same thing with Rings of Power. I like that it's actors, even if I've seen the one thing, right? Like I can't remember her name, but the woman that plays Galadriel. I saw her in one thing, but she's not a mass star. So I went, oh, I really like her in Saint Maud, but this is a right fit here. I don't feel like I'm seeing the Saint Maud character. Where Gosling, there is a lot of baggage that comes with that. And I don't love that. But I think Stars was just so desperate of like, hey, Sean Levy did $1 billion. Everyone loves Ryan Gosling. Put them together. And maybe I'm wrong, right? But for me, the vibe that I want them to capture is Skeleton Crew, even if it is a bit more kiddie. Because guess what? Star Wars is for families and kids. I don't think that doesn't mean it can't be dark, because stuff happens all the time in Disney movies back in the day were fucking dark, right? Like just because like kids or even like Spider-Verse, right? Where like kids can get into that. Look at because we blah with the kids all being sick this week. We watched a bunch of movies this week, and we watched the Spider-Verse movies, and like think about the first 15 minutes with Gwen and her dad for Across. The kids don't get bored. They sit there. That's dark stuff. That's her dad can arrest her. Like you could do those things and still have like the family kind of element around it. So for me, John Watts and company, they captured exactly what I want of sure, Filoni can do Ahsoka, bring Obi-Wan, stuff like that. But the future of Star Wars, if you're not making episode what is it? Where are we at now? 10, right? Let's say they do announce we're doing episode 10, Rey, Finn, Poe. If you're not doing that and you go, hey, we do want to get away from the Skywalkers, what John Watts did was perfect. Because again, they do tell you where it is in the timeline, but it's not beholden to like, oh, this would fuck up this would mess up this. That story, you change a few things. You could have put that in the prequels, Old Republic, High Republic, where it is now, after the movies, could have put it anywhere and it would fit. And that's what's so good. I think you want a variation of Star Wars, and probably because it gets low ratings, they're going to go, oh, no, people don't like that. And oh, it's kids. And that's, I think, a big thing why I think it's two things, right? The low ratings is because Star Wars is just on a downtrend. Because to this example, guy in the chair right here, my Give It Go host, S-Bubs. I haven't watched any Star Wars since Mando Season 3. Good to hear Skeleton Crew is good. I need to watch it at some point. Absolutely. And the good thing is I don't think it's tying in anything, but it's like the episodes aren't super long, but they're not super short either, which is good. There's a couple, but it's worth a watch. It's tons of fun. I agree with some people that it is like the most cinematic thing John Watts has done, and he did 3 Spider-Man movies. But that's the two things, right? Is one, it was led by kids, and a lot of people go, kid show. Same with animation, kid show, and they push it off. Sure, there's elements of that, but like I can watch things with children and root for them and get invested. Like also I watched Goonies when I was a kid, but there was there were millions, if not billions of people around the world that saw Goonies as adults and were like, this thing is fucking awesome. So being just kids, that's like very close-minded. And the second thing is just like, Star Wars is the lowest. When you talk about the big 3, that especially around our podcast with the Marvel, Star Wars, and DC, Star Wars is still really at the bottom. And even though James Gunn hasn't even put out a movie yet, Star Wars is easily at the bottom by far. List any problems they got, right? And that's why for me, Skeleton Crew, like that's the identity it should be. Andor, I think is too adult, but you should still have that. Acolyte, funny, Superman Mike just given Acolyte being the show before did not help either. Absolutely not. And to me, Acolyte, that was the thing of, hey, something new, but very poorly written, in my opinion. And I know people misread all those reports of even Katie, who's in, I'm not going to speak for her if she misread them or not, but she hosts our Star Wars Alliance show. And she's like, I don't know how you could cancel a show that's number 2, even though it's down. Because the report was, okay, number 1 show on Disney Plus was Percy Jackson. Number 2 was Acolyte, right? In her case, and many other people's case were, hey, also that report said Yeah, it's number 2, but Agatha and they just said Marvel and Star Wars was down greatly. Dalton says, "Missed you, man. Thank you very much. I missed you too. Missed everybody." That's why, thankfully, again, thank Dylan Musk for the Discord. It was great because that's the only place I was really social media. It's great to keep up with people. So again, it's in the link below. If it doesn't work, let us know. But the Discord, my favorite place, favorite app ever. So it was great to talk with everybody. But with Acolyte, like I'm on the other side of, oh, well, even though everything was huge percentages down, it was still number 2. The cost that was crazy. The fact that like they showed the top 10 of the streaming shows of last year, right? The fact that Sylvester Stallone's, what is that thing? It's something King, Tulip King, or Tulsa King. It's him. It's Frank Grillo. Costs like just a perfect, like budget's nothing, right? Compared to like the 250 plus Acolyte. That's where it's like, again, sure, it's number 2, but it doesn't matter if that number 2 is so lower than what you used to have. Like that's where you go, this is not worth it. So that to me is like a, not saying Kay's a loser. I'm saying like that to me a losing attitude of, well, it's number 2, so but it's like down 70%. Well, let's keep going. It'd be different if it was well received, but it was not. And that's where Acolyte to me, it was going forward, but or like going in a different direction, but I think it just was not well thought out. Tulsa King is that, yeah, Tulsa King is in that Yellowstone Spears dad shows. And it's funny, as Bubs, I'm not sure you might know this, but like for me, the dad shows back in our day were like Law and Order, CSI, but the biggest one, I'm not sure if it's still on, but NCIS. When me and Emily met, because my grandma used to watch that, you know, RP to Doreen, all those spinoffs, right? And for me and Emily were like, other than her, it's like I don't know a single fucking person in the planet, like personally. I know there's people that watches NCIS, but when like cable ratings were big in like 2000, whenever Friends ended to like 2010, NCIS was like always the top 1 to 3 show, and it's just like a cop show, just like them catching bad guys. But it's like it's the top 3 show. It's like a 18, 20 million viewers a week, and you're like, who's watching NCIS? And that's the same thing where like I like to bug Chris and Taylor about it, but like that's where like I've met nobody other than Taylor like that watched Yellowstone, you know? And that's why I'd always joke like that's a show for 60 and up. Taylor's not 60, Chris is not 60. I like to bust their balls, but it's like I don't know anybody my age watching this show, you know? Yeah, and it has like 5 spinoffs. Oh yeah, NCIS. Yeah, it's still on. Obviously, I don't think it's pulling those numbers, but same thing. Tulsa King, all that stuff. But when you looked at the top 10 streaming shows, like these things, and they're getting, it was something where it's like 2 point, I think Acolyte was like 2.3 billion hours watched or minutes watched from release to the when the report was made, right? And Tulsa King was like 7.8. Acolyte, I saw preview anywhere or everywhere. Of course, I got an algorithm, and of course, it's probably targeting me, but still, I saw it a bunch of places. Tulsa King, I'm like, oh, it's Paramount Plus somewhere. I've seen it a couple times, but and I don't know anybody that watches it, but still, that's crazy. And something like Squid Game, where from like Christmas to the report, it was like 1.3 billion, not or 1.3 billion hours, not minutes, hours. And that shows the power of like Squid Game's been out for like a month and a couple weeks, and obviously Squid Game was a phenomenon, right? But it's crazy how the power of Netflix and a hit show. But even in like Tulsa King, like let's see if I can find that report there of streaming shows 2024, because there was all these things. Oh, it's just gonna bring up weird stuff like, have you seen Wise Guy? Let's see, Acolyte deadline. Let's see if I can find it on the spot. If I can't, let's see, number 2 season for that. Let's see if I can find Tulsa King. So I think I found the original report, but the shows that were Tulsa King, no, I can't find it. But I will have to find it at some point or to talk about me with the boys. But it was all those type of shows. It was like Tulsa King-esque shows that were like, oh, really? That's beating that and that's beating that. Where for me, I get why it's canceled. Like, let's get out of here. Let's go away. So for me, the hub, because that's when I was getting back on social media when I saw the hubbub. Oh, Acolyte was number 2 and they got rid of it. It's like no, like it'd be like if you were in a race and you were second in the race, but the person that was first finished like 12 hours before you. Be like, well, I was second. It's like, yeah, but that guy finished half a day before you. As I said, for me, I relate those more to mom shows because that's all my mom watches. She's on that SUV at least once a week. Okay, and that's fair enough. And that same thing, grandma would watch the NCIS. I had to watch all the time, and I did not like that show at all, but we had to watch it when I was there. So, but anyways, my point was Andor, too adult. It's too like heady, I'd say, to do that, right? Acolyte was just to me poorly conceived, whereas all over the place. Then the Filoni stuff at times is too much inside baseball. There's been so many people in retrospect that have talked about so being like I couldn't get into it because X, Y, and Z because it is like a sequel to Rebels, and I didn't fucking watch Rebels, and they didn't do a good enough job, recapping me. So, and Filoni is not the answer. That's the thing. I'm getting a little sip of water here. Oh my god, high quality H2O. Um, it's the same thing where I agree with people that it's not like, oh, Kathleen Kennedy has to go. It's like a lot of people got to go or make some changes. Like, and Filoni has to. I had said this to, and don't get me wrong, he's done some, maybe not go, but go from the role he's in. I had said this to Taylor years ago because he was always pitching Filoni, and I said Filoni's not the guy. And that's where the funny thing is, right? Where someone like me and Katie could completely disagree on the Acolyte stuff, but completely agree like Filoni is not the guy to be doing X, Y, and Z. And when you look at those type of shows and everything happening with the fact the Mando movie is just, if people, because I don't think they've talked about this too much in the newscast, I think in the Discord we have, but pretty much it's confirmed that what happened with Moana 2 going to theaters, it's what happening with the Mando movie. Now they didn't film it and put it together, but it sounds like it's gonna be like a filler episode put into a movie. It's they gotta go save Jabba the Hutt's son, and the villain is voiced by Dave Filoni, and it's just like and literally they've done this in Clone Wars, so it's just kind of like a rehash of something. I guess I'm like, I'll take any Star Wars movie, but I know it sounds picky, but I'm more in the sense of like, I'll take any Star Wars movie that's not Filoni. And yeah, as well as False God on the statue Filoni, like BVS scene. Absolutely. And I think a lot of people are coming around to that. And that's where like Taylor will be like, oh, what about this and this? And I'll be like, well, that's a Filoni call. That's a this call, right? And same thing. If Filoni, and that's where it's tough, because Filoni, Kathleen Kennedy, if they are heavily involved and they are still greenlighting this stuff as far as skeleton crew, that's what's tough, because every once in a while something comes out and I go, man, this was fucking great, like more of this, and then you'll get like 3 to 4 more projects that are middling or suck. You're like, what happened? And the same thing will happen with Andor, right? It's like when it's the MCU meme of Marvel's back, Marvel's dead, Marvel's back, but Star Wars is like, oh, Star Wars, this is the direction they should go, and then it's just like 6 feet under for a while, and then you gotta fucking dig up like your Evil Dead. So I don't think Filoni's a full answer, but it's tough. They just got to get their ducks in a row. The Mangold movie, I'm not a fan of the idea as far as going back that far. It's not a concept that's ever interested me, but because it's James Mangold, I'm like, yes, please get that going. I'm definitely more excited for the Sean Levy movie more than the Favreau movie, because it just feels like it's going to be a Disney Plus episode that's on the big screen to me, which sucks. And I get it, because fucking Bob Iger, that's where he's retiring in 2 years, whatever you want to say about him, because obviously he's said some bad shit during the strike and everything like that. Smart fucking decision with Moana. Moana, $1 billion movie. That thing, I just watched it for the first time this week, and it was enjoyable. It was a good time. Not like the first, but that, like, he went from just making a streaming show that, could have spiked the numbers to a $1 billion property. So I don't think he's necessarily wrong in doing that. And that's the tough thing, right? I think I talked about this with Taylor before I left, is if Mandalorian Grogu comes out and it's very safe, just turn your brain off type of movie, which I don't know if Moana 2's turn your brain off, but I think it's very safe. If it's like that, it makes $1 billion, then it's like, fuck, like, we're stuck with that. The same way as now we're going to get a bunch of sequels for Disney, right? We're getting Moana 3. We're getting live action Moana. That's the tough thing where Mandalorian Grogu, it sounds bad, but I kind of want it not to do well, because I don't want that to be a direction. But I also don't want them to put out this movie and not do well, and they go, well, we're going to take another 7 years off. Like, Star Wars, I think, just in general needs a lot of changes over there. And it's very tough, and I'm very curious how this all goes. Every report since I've been gone about the Mandalorian movie, I have zero excitement, other than I will go enjoy it with my kids. It's the same way of like Thor Love and Thunder, which I've never watched again, I don't think. I enjoyed that a lot more. I remember when I was on the vodka stream, I said like, oh yeah, I had a great time. I loved a lot of the stuff in there. Now there's a lot of points people brought up and things in retrospect where I go, yeah, it's not great or anything. But the reason was it was a fine middling movie to me. It had some big cons as well, but because I'm seeing it with my kids, that was tons of fun. And that's the same thing here. But with this, I'll definitely have a lot more of a, I don't know, guard up, because a lot of the stuff in the Filoniverse I've not been a fan of. And I think Boba Fett was awful. Mandalorian 3 was awful. Maybe that's a stretch. There were awful things about it. Boba Fett was awful, but it's very tough. So with Skeleton Crew, to round us back to what Mike asked originally, I absolutely loved it. That's something that I'll probably go return back to many times in my life. I'm fingers crossing, begging they do a season 2, but if not, to me it ended in a perfect way where, okay, there could be more adventures, but if they were stopped there, great. And that's, to me, if you were to pitch me, say, hey, what should Star Wars be? That, overall, that. New characters with feeling exactly like the world. To me, it felt like Force Awakens, where Force Awakens to me did feel like a perfect combo of like the prequels and the originals. This was everything you would want. Everything when they're like, we want to get away from the Skywalkers. Because look at Mandalorian. Starts out as, we're not going to the Skywalkers. Luke Skywalker's in season 2, right? Like Skeleton Crew felt like the first genuine, not tied to anything Star Wars, but fresh Star Wars that you could invest in. That actually felt like they were doing what they said, and not some kind of wink nod like, oh, that guy's related to Darth Maul. Isn't that great? Like, none of that. I can't say perfect show. There was definitely some cons and some acting moments, whatnot. But it was like I said, I don't know where it would rank overall Star Wars, but Disney top 3. Really loved that. I was bummed I wasn't on those reviews because Taylor and Kirkland, I think both get like a 7.5. Bastards. No taste. It's because Kirkland has no kids and Taylor has a kid. But you know what? I don't know. It's good. Something canon lore happened to him, and he's I can't support this. I don't know. Who knows? But yeah, I would have gave that like a 9.5. I really love Skeleton Crew. Superman Mike says, I feel like Filoni is just too attached to his animated characters to be the guy who moves Star Wars forward. And I agree. I think it'd be better if it's like there was a guy moving it forward and it's like, hey, Dave, every 2 years you get to do one show. And if you want to tie to that stuff, great. And he could make that call. Like, what do you want to do with your show? But to make it all about that, I don't know. All the brands, that's what I love about what's going to be happening on the podcast. Marvel, Star Wars, and DC. The next 3 years is going to be very telling for all of them because DC has this new universe. Star Wars is trying to, I think, kind of reestablish themselves, and the Marvel's trying to win people back, right? And a bunch of things could go wrong. Superman could come out and flop, and there we go. Batman, let's hope that fucking comes out. I'm not going to talk too much about it yet because there's more. From what I've heard, I completely buy into there was stuff going on with Matt Reeves, and that's where it's like, hey, I don't want to comment on that. That's where it's tough to speculate. Like, could Corn Sweat be in Batman or vice versa? All I'll say is on that delay, because I never spoke about it, it sucks, but of course, give the man his time. Let's hope it comes out. The Dark Knight Rises had 4 years in between. This would be 5 years, but whatever. It's an extra year. It is going to be a little odd that Pattinson's going to be playing, like, the movie's supposed to take place like months after the Batman, and he will noticeably be older. Like, there's no ifs about it. He's a great looking young dude, but he's noticeably going to be older. So that's kind of weird. I'm not sure if they're going to reshuffle some things there plot wise. But as long as it comes out, great. That's been the same thing I've said to James Gunn. You can do whatever you want, cast whoever you want, great. But and it might sound selfish, but as long as I get the Batman trilogy, you do whatever, I'll support you. The second that trilogy goes away, or there's issues, or they're doing things that they don't want to do, that's where I'm less hyped about the DCU overall, right? Because I did like what James Gunn said a couple weeks ago on Threads, where he said eventually they want to get a Elseworlds or a Black Label, whatever, like a logo where it's like, this is the DCU stuff and this is the Elseworlds stuff. And that's what I would love Marvel to do. I would love it. And that's what we kind of were hoping What If would be in a sense, and it wasn't, right? Spider-Man Friendly Neighborhood is maybe that. I'll give my thoughts on that when I get to one of those reviews. That might be a couple weeks. I think it's fine. I think the hype around it, same thing. I've not talked to Taylor and Kirk much. Can't wait to talk to them because to me, that show, they were loving it. I was like, I don't know what you watch. Like, I thought it was very, I above mid. That's what I would say. Like overall animation, writing, everything. Like, there's some really cool moments in there, and one moment in episode one, particularly, like, oh, that's really well done. But overall, I'm like, this is, we should got that Spider-Man '98 revival, But that's the thing where, oh shit, where was I? I rambled on Taylor and Kirkland, but oh, I would love if Marvel just came out and said, hey, here's the slate. You see the Iron Man movie? It's not Downey. It's not connected. We just want to tell an Iron Man one-off story. It's, great. We want to fully adapt Demon in the Bottle, but that would have never worked in the MCU, but we want to do it here and tell a gripping, dark, deep story about what addiction and alcoholism could do to someone great and as smart as Tony Stark, the demon in the bottle aspect, right? You can't do that in the MCU. Look at what they did in Iron Man 2, right? Like, that was the aspect of, okay, it kind of got a little more jokey. I've been begging Marvel to do that, and I know why they don't. So James Gunn saying, hey, we want to do that, great. And even the interview he gave, like, I thought about it, but I want to invest in Elseworlds. So if he puts his money where his mouth is, I'll support him in anything else. To me, it's like if there's ever a backtrack and it's, he said to Matt Reeves, like, do this, this, this. Like I said, my only statement is hope it comes out. Very excited for it, and I still have no interest in Pattinson being in the DCU. If there was ever a pitch for it, I would at least like it to be let Matt Reeves finish his trilogy and then bring him in. Because I'm with some people where give the other heroes a chance. We just got a Batman movie. I love Batman, but we're not starving for Batman. We got Cape Crusaders last year, Penguin. Like, Batman's had so much stuff in the past decade, 2 decades of content, right? So it's like, I'm fine for wait. It's also tough because, like, I got the Dark Knight and the Batman. They go back and forth, but, like, if they never made another Batman movie after that, I'd be fine because, like, those are near perfect movies for me and what I like with Batman, right? So I'm good, whatever we want to do. But it's the sense of, I don't want it to, if you're asking me if we're going forward with Robert Pattinson, don't want him in DCU, and do Supergirl, do Clayface, which is an odd pick, but it's Mike fucking Flanagan. Awesome. Do that. Do Lobo, do Swamp Thing. You can get to Batman whenever. I would even be fine. I know people might think it's sacrilege. Do a Justice League without Batman and see what happens. Now watch it fails and they'd fire me, right? Of course, business-wise, I'd say put Batman in there, but try it out. Marvel and the MCU did not have their A-tier players when they started the MCU, and it worked out pretty okay. The same way as, like, I'm not going to talk about the X-Men casting rumors because we got a newscast this week and we will talk about that. And I'm very excited about the roster that's forming. And at least I'll say that apparently with the rumors, it's looking like Wolverine's not going to be in this movie. From the new casting that's happening right now to reports of the past. And to me, great. Do without it. Because then you know how much bigger it's going to be when we get to X-Men 2 or 3 and Wolverine is on the team. Same thing with Justice League. Like, imagine the DCU is set. It's kind of like when Spider-Man came in, right? Like, the MCU got set up and then Spider-Man came in Civil War. It's like, fuck, this is awesome. We got this character, A-tier character we love, playing with this universe. Let's go. And it, for the most part, I think worked out pretty well. Led to No Way Home. With Batman, same thing. I would love it if James Gunn went, you know what? Let's shelve Brave and the Bold for now. Like, maybe we're going to get to it, but let's shelve for now. And let's say Superman's a hit, right? Let's do all this stuff. And then we'll get to Batman. People are never going to not be tired of Batman. Batman's had hit films since the 80s. So what are we in now? Dude, for like 40 years and even 66. Like, that's like 60 years now, 60 plus years, somewhere around there, of he's a character people will and always will care about. Some DC fans might hate that because they want, a Superman, a Wonder Woman, etc. to be the top dog. It's not, because as usual, Batman's a man and everyone could relate to a kid losing their parents and getting fucked up about it, right? That's why Dexter's such a hit. Like, that's where literally in the interviews for all these shows, I can't remember this, I'm paraphrasing, but they literally were like, yeah, we end the show, but Showtime called and said it's the biggest thing and we want more. And that's how Original Sin and Resurrection happened. They had no plans to bring Dexter back. Dexter was dead. But guess what? Showtime called and said, fuck, the huge hit. You want to do more? Here's a bag of money? Great. Same thing with Batman. It's just like, and I think because Dexter has such a good hook, right? A serial killer who kills bad people. the classic narrative of, is he a good guy doing bad things or a bad guy doing good things? And it's that struggle. And we've all been there, right? I'm somebody, I've always said, I support the death penalty. I'm not saying I'm going to, we need to get in the Wall Street stuff and everything, but there's criminals where it's like, yeah, you don't deserve to live anymore. And that's a morality tale, right? Same thing with Batman. Multiple story points have morality tales. That's a character that's always going to play. So if you're telling me if the DCU is successful, right, and it's working, if James Gunn were to sit me down and say, hey, you know what, actually, we're not going to use Batman until like 2030, I'd be like, oh, who in their right mind, whether it's myself or anyone, would be like, oh, that's a mistake. Batman, like, you're waiting too long. People are gonna, people might eventually get impatient, sure, but it's like they were excited when Spider-Man eventually got there. And what, the MCU started 2008, and Spider-Man didn't get there for another 8 years, and people were excited. It led to $2 billion movies with Spider-Man for a multitude of reasons, right? But still, I don't think like, oh, you're missing the boat. Like if the DCU is working, it's like, no, you're missing the boat. It's gonna fail. No, people will show up for the Batman. People will be there, obviously, for that Batman. But I mean, like Batman in the DCU, people will be genuinely excited about that. So, anyways, I'm going to transition into Dalton's question here. But what I will say is about the next few years, Superman, if that fails, that's crazy to see what's going to happen. That was I led to the Batman. That's how we got there. Star Wars, same thing. These films are big to see what's going to happen with all this stuff, right? Who takes over as CEO? With Marvel, all these big plays they're doing with these characters, like that Captain America tracking we were talking about a newscast, that ain't good. I saw a lot of people be, oh, not too bad for Captain America, blah, blah. It's like, the problem is with these movies, unless it's great, which maybe it is, but I don't think it's going to be. The MCU movies, especially now, are so front loaded. When it's front loaded is 95 million on the 4-day weekend. That to me is like, oof. Not even 100 million. It's not looking good. And I think it's going to be like a fine movie. We'll talk about it. I think there's many reasons why there's issues with it, but I think it's going to be a fine movie and it's going to go away. Thunderbolts could be the same thing. Fantastic Four, that's not a guaranteed hit. People talk about the first family all the time, like, oh yeah, big thing coming to Marvel. I believe X-Men's a big thing coming to Marvel. I don't think F4 is. Like F4, like, let's look at the numbers. Thank you, Brent, as always, for that website. I don't know if he's listening, but shout out to Brent. And shout out to Marvel Line. Shout out to David, my co-host on the Giving, hosting that show, doing a great job holding it down while Brent's on his own sabbatical. But let's take a look here. Fantastic Four. Oh, boy. 2015, 167. These are the totals. 2015, the worst one, 167 million. Rise of the Silver Surfer, 289 million. Fantastic Four, 333 million. A shout out, we are doing the Fantastic Four Retro right now. Check it out on Patreon. That and Superman. We review all the Superman movies from Reeve to Returns, and then Fantastic Four, we did the unreleased one, and then all three of these, all on Patreon. They're coming out like every month you get one, but they're exclusive there, those retros, so they're not coming to the main feed. We might drop a little preview, but the whole series, that's on Patreon, so if you could support us there, also get other episodes ad-free and stuff, we'd very appreciate that. Especially the X-Men, like one that was not released, that one, we had tons of laugh on that, so that's worth the price of admission right there. It's $5, a cup of coffee, do that. If you have the ability to. The lowest gross, and even like let's see the numbers, MCU, because I think the Marvels is there at 200 million or something like that, right? I'm giving some of my material for the predictions cast coming up soon, because I think I heard Dylan Cream be like, oh, like I think it's gonna do like pretty good. Like I heard on After 9, like, is bottom 5 good? So the bottom 5 for the MCU is 200. I'll round up 200 million for Marvels. 265 for Hulk, Cap's 370, Black Widow's 379, and then Eternals at 401. So the bottom 5 MCU, there's only 2 films lower than the top Fantastic Four. It's not like Spider-Man, or even Amazing Spider-Man. It's so funny to look at that as a failure, right? It like dipped from Amazing Spider-Man. It's like, oh man, they're in trouble. And they even went to go make a fucking deal with MCU and all this stuff. The Amazing Spider-Man, here's my last search for the numbers. I'm pretty sure it's like 700 million or something like that, right? Amazing Spider-Man 2. Let's take a look at the numbers. Oh, shit. It's just bringing up about comic books. Here we go. I found that website. Let's see. 709 million. if you were to tell Sony any of those films, Craven, Madam Web, Morbius, were 709, they'd be fucking doing shooting star presses off their desks. They'd be so happy. In 2000, what was it, 12, I think it was, or 13? Yeah, 2014, sorry. 709 million was looked at as a failure, disappointing. Things are going down. We need to pull the shoot and go talk to Feige and company now to make a deal. That's fucking crazy. That's Spider-Man. So that's where even Spider-Man, you look at it, you go, oh, we get better numbers than this. It's already hit by itself. Fantastic Four's biggest thing is 333. They got the MCU hype behind them. They got Pedro, they got Kirby, they got Quinn, people that are, even the guy from The Bear, bigger stars than the other ones, maybe other than Jessica Alba, right? They're probably going to have Downey in the marketing. They're going to use that Doom stuff. They have tools in their tool bag to use to propel the Fantastic Four to be a hit. I'm not saying it's impossible. The Guardians of the Galaxy was a massive hit. I'm just saying it's not a sure thing. And that's where all these brands, and even then I am, again, more and more worried about Doomsday and Secret Wars as the closer we get. Some of the quotes Russo say, some of the things we hear. To me, I do think it has a very good shot of being the Rise of Skywalker of Marvel, where now luckily with Marvel, they can kind of do a soft reboot. Maybe that's what Secret Wars is going to do, right? Going to reset stuff, and you go, okay, people didn't like that, but we can say this is the new Marvel, and you can even say if it's lower box office, like, well, this is the new, a new, not even phase, like a new universe, so it's kind of from scratch, and you can do, but it's going to be so not exciting. It's going to be interesting of like when you do new universe and like Captain America fails, like they going to replace Mackie? They going to keep him? I don't know. But that's where I think like Marvel, other than a few things like a Deadpool Wolverine 2 or something, like, don't get me wrong, the Avengers can be billion-dollar movies, both of them. But it's about what happens after the fact. Rise of Skywalker made $1 billion. But you could argue that and Last Jedi back-to-back, like, hurt and divide the fandom a lot, right? So same thing, like, sure, do you cash in and make a bunch of money, but damage everything going forward? Maybe. I hope not. I hope Doomsday, like, I'm still not a fan of, well, news will talk about rumors of Downey's going to stay past Secret Wars and be, like, the Doom. It's like, ugh, like, there's a lot of things that I hear where I go, this is not great to me. There's probably going to be some great stuff, but I hope I'm wrong. I hope they prove me wrong because I don't want the MCU to go away because I love talking about with friends and you guys and the GeekVerse people and everything like that. So we'll see, but it's an interesting next 3 years. Super Mike says, what I'm loving about James Gunn is that his announcements so far have put the creators in the spotlight. Absolutely. Even with the directors, they haven't, but they talk about the comic books. They'll have the name there with the issues. That is a huge thing that Marvel's missed on. So I absolutely agree there. That's been great. Super Mike also continues with Marvel. It's the characters first and creators are kind of an afterthought now. Oh, absolutely. They're almost, I can't even say an afterthought, like a non-thought, a non sequitur of like, they don't even care about them per se, which is mean, but that's true. So to transition into the last two comments, so there's other things we'll talk about in the future, like Superman. What are my thoughts on that? I'm gonna hold them. I'm gonna hold them. We're gonna maybe come in the future because this has already gone longer than I thought. Because classic me. Hem podcast in 2 months, really ranting. But Dalton said, "Did you watch and enjoy Creature Commandos?" I did and I didn't in both ways. Where I watched it, I've not finished it. I did not feel the pull to finish it. I think it's a good show, and maybe those last few episodes are really great. There was some stuff I was spoiled on because like there's just friends of mine that get screeners and they can't keep their mouth shut. So I knew the Batman thing was going. I've now muted those friends and be like, hey, don't do that. It's great. You got a screener, but you don't go be like, oh, guess what's coming? And then like ambitious gift where it's like, okay, so Batman, you're going to see Batman and it's going to be ambiguous and great. Thanks. Good for you. You got a screener. Good job. So for me, I liked the show. I think this is my biggest thing with James Gunn, or I guess I liked what I saw of the show. I prefer James Gunn when he has guidelines. Suicide, like out of all his comic book stuff, Suicide Squad was the lowest. Now Peacemaker was really good. I don't know where I'd rank that all, but I think I'd still rank the Guardian stuff higher than the Peacemaker. There were some great moments, but even stuff in that show where it's like, all right, this is too much for me, or over the top in the sense that I don't like, or it's just not jiving with me. When he doesn't have, limitations, I think he can just go kind of banana sandwich. And that's why I am excited for Superman. And there's some things that trailer I thought were looking pretty great, and some things that were looking a little iffy. But I think that he works better when it's here's a circle. You can get to the edge, but you gotta stay in the circle. I think when it's like here's a axe and you can go through the circle and do whatever, I think it gets a little lost. That trauma side comes out a bit too much. That is hit or miss though, right? Some of that stuff really works, some of it doesn't. Superman Mike says the GI robot was peak creature commandos. That's interesting. I think it was a great, and this thing I didn't think any episode was bad. I really enjoyed that J.R. Robot episode. My favorite episode was the Weasel episode from what I've seen so far. Absolutely heartbreaking. Love that. I know Taylor and Kirkland were not digging, and some other people. I absolutely fucking loved the weird romantic like Frankenstein's monster, the bride of like Frank the monster seeing Frankenstein and the bride getting it all on the table that was created, like this love story. Like I actually loved all that. That felt very like Robert Eggers, like, oh, this is weird and messed up. Like there's some stuff I really loved about the show, but it didn't feel like the actual I liked a lot of the characters, so I didn't really care about what was going on with like Cersei and the island and the princess. Like I thought there was gonna be some twist, and the fact that she's just this very overly sexual, like, oh, I've never felt a man as big and strong as you before, and it's just like, all right, and it's not even like usually you might do that and you might have the character not attracted to them, and that's why it's funny because he's like, leave me alone, like I'm not sexually attracted to you. But the whole time Rick Flag Senior's like trying to hold a boner, and he's like, oh my god, should I sleep with this lady? Like a lot of that stuff just didn't work for me, and I just didn't feel the need. I was watching week to week and I missed an episode. I'm like, I'll get to it and I will finish it for sure at some point, for sure before Superman, I guess, but I didn't feel the need. So Creature Commandos for me is like the lowest James Gunn thing. And for me, it also didn't give me a good feel of what the DCU is going to be like, because even he said that it's like, well, it's like a taste, but not everything will be like this. Superman is to me the real taste of like, okay, what is the DCU going for? What's the tone? What's the vibe? Because if this was the tone or vibe, Creature Commandos, I'd be worried. I'd be like, oh, the universe is dead on arrival. That can't be the tone for the entire thing. That can be one thing, but if this was the trendsetter, absolutely not, which I don't think it is. So I liked it, but I didn't finish it. And that's the things where I talk about like being on the podcast. It was nice to be like, you know what? I don't need to finish this. You know, like a Mandalorian season 3 where it's like, oh, this is brutal every week. I'm disappointed. This is like, and I was liking Creature Commandos. But I was like, you know what? I'll come back to this. Don't need to see this. I get what it is. It's fine. Cool. And the last question I'll take right now, because I was only planning, like I said, to go about an hour, and we're going to be hitting the 2 hour mark. But Clay said, which movie of 2025 you're most anticipating, and you're also which movie of 2025 that you are most anticipating are you also most worried about, and why? For example, for himself, F1 is the one I'm most anticipated by, but I do worry that maybe this director was a one-hit wonder with Top Gun Maverick, and he may not recapture the same feeling. His other movies certainly have not. And you hit the nail on the head of why. I think, yeah, you said F1. I think there's someone else in the Discord that said F1 is their most anticipated. That's why for me, F1 is not. I've seen enough of Joseph not Krasinski. What is it? You even put it there. Kaczynski, Top Gun director. I've seen enough. Spiderhead or whatever it was. A few other things where it's like, I don't know. And again, I'm not a car guy, so it's not up my alley. Javier Bardem's in there and Brad Pitt, but Javier, I'll watch anything with him in. So I will watch it eventually. So what am I most worried about? I'm trying to think. I don't think I have, and I made a mistake because I've been trying. My goals this year is for the 10 years to actually do a bloopers episode or best stuff from the past 4 years. We go to like 20, I think like 18, 19, and it stops. I want to get the years I haven't, because I have them saved. I just had time. That's not a promise, by the way. But so I was listening to maybe Tom Cruise really did Ghost Direct Top Gun Maverick, says that's Bubs. And I suppose might not be wrong. That happens a lot of time with Cruise, a lot of time with other people. We've heard that about Reynolds before. Like it is tough to say how much of who was what, right? Because Cruise has such a big hand in his movies. But when I was re-listening to which sounds weird, I know, but I just didn't write anything down. So I was re-listening to our movie anticipation preview, which I was happy because there's some stuff like, oh, that's a good best of moment. That's really funny. Things I forget because we record so much. But in my top five, I completely forgot about Sinners. I was like, oh, I'll put Saw in there, which I want to amend because I love Saw, but Sinners, I'm absolutely super excited for, right? So I'm trying to think what my one Sinners. No, I trust Coogler. I think that's no lower than at least a 7. I like the stuff Coogler does, so I'm not really worried about that. I know some people think, oh, there's too much going on, or they didn't love Wakanda Forever. Not me. Wakanda Forever, I thought he did a great job of what he had. It still was like a 9 out of 10. I'm fine with that. Um, God, and there is like Mickey 17 that like same thing though. Anything that Bong Joon Ho's done, I've not been disappointed. So let me pull up 2025 because I think for sure I think there's one that had thought of. And I was like, oh, that's the one with the bullet, but like, and even the monkey, like I'm not. I'm anticipating it, but I can't. It's not like one of my most anticipated. So I'm just trying to see which one it could be because I trust Bong with Mickey 17. It's not that. So like, and that's the same thing. Like, if you guys didn't listen to the 2025 preview yet, like most of the ones like Thunderbolts or Captain America, like I'm not really in Fantastic Four. Like, I'm not really anticipating them that much. I'm not that excited by. Like, I'm excited for Superman to see the fallout, and I hope that I enjoy the movie. But I'm not that worried about it. I think it's gonna be a fine movie, but I'm not like dying to see it. I also don't like that the Saw movie is not on the schedule anymore, so that's not good. So yeah, I sort of disappointed Clay, but I don't think I have one that I'm too worried about at all. Really, like I guess out of the two between Sinners and Mickey 17, I guess I would say Sinners because maybe because Ryan Coogler's never done horror, it's a different bag. Where Bong Joon Ho's already done weird sci-fi stuff, right? Maybe horror's not going to be Ryan Coogler's bag, and it's just not going to work out. But I, I I have high doubts, but I guess that would be the one. But I'm not too worried. Like all the movies that I'm really worried about are none I'm anticipating. I guess that's what I could also say is Saw because Clay, you're not a Saw fan, but S Bubs, he's seen a bit of this, and Mike, where the rumors is with this new Saw film, they're having like tons of creative uh, issues and differences, and it's like a set of producers versus another set of producers. So that to me gets me very worried. And the director, he did Six, which to me is second best Saw of all time. He did Final Chapter. He didn't like that the whole bad bag, but there's a whole story behind that. But then he did, oh god, I guess it was just Saw X, right? And that was great. But he posted a GIF of the end of that movie, and it's Tobin Bell, and he's walking through the door, and there's a sunset, and it looks like him saying goodbye. And it's like, okay, why is the director posting this very ominous Travis-like gif of like, where's this guy going? So honestly, Clay, that would be it. Like I know, as Puff says, I've accepted that Saw isn't happening at this point at all. Wow, yeah, and it's tough. Like I don't want to be like morbid, but like it's funny that they did Saw 10. I think we all agreed of, hey, keep doing this because Tobin Bell's not going to be around too much longer. So just keep doing stories about him as Jigsaw, and then when he's gone, reboot it. So the fact that it was like, okay, we're going to go make it another one real fast, and then it's just been halted to the fact of it was delayed a year, and now on calendars, it's not even dated anymore, which is not a good sign. So let's say it does come out, Clay, in October. That's the one because it's not good. Like, it's different when it's like a director and producer, writers, but the fact it's like infighting between the producers, and the rumor was like it's just about the direction they wanted to go. I don't know what that was. I know some Saw fans had speculated, which thought like, are they going to do like a Halloween thing where they go off in a new, like this is the new continuity? Because like spoilers alert, but like Tobin Bell's character dies in the third one, right? And a lot of people in retrospect said like, oh, that was probably a mistake because we got pigeonholed into all these flashbacks. There'd some people speculate like, what if they do Saw 11, but it's really like Saw 4, all this weird bullshit, right? So, and Mike says like kind of like the eternal war going on with James Bond movies, Broccoli's versus Amazon. I agree to that to like a point, which that's fucking crazy too. Like I wasn't here for when that happened, but the fact that the Amazon's like, we want to make it like the MCU, that you paid a lot of money for the wrong franchise, especially, which is dumb because the Broccolis have like final say over this. It's not like the Broccolis had it up for sale, they bought it, and the Broccolis are like Like George Lucas, remember when he said this stupid stuff about Disney buying Star Wars and he regretted it, but it wasn't his anymore. So he's just kind of screwed. In this deal, they just bought the rights to like work with the Broccolis. The Broccolis still own Bond. So it's like they can do whatever they want or say what they want. But if the Broccolis don't say yes, they can't do anything with it. So it's, but at least with that, it's like that's the big corporation, Amazon, and then the producers, right? Where we saw it sounds like it is just all the producers in a civil war and they can't decide on what to do. And like I said, I don't know what the issue is. I don't know how hard it is to make a Saw. Like I know how hard it is, but I mean like how hard it is to get that going. Especially the last one made them a lot of money. Lionsgate needs a hit. So it's odd that this is taking as long. So I'm not with Espos where I don't think it's never going to happen because they make money, but I don't know if it's going to happen this year. Espo says we need a Fox first X-Men level timeline spit for Saw, and I would be fine with it. I don't because like the movies don't go away. Hoffman doesn't go away. Like Jamie Lee Curtis has been killed off how many times in Halloween, and we still got Halloween 2018, and I really enjoyed that movie. The follow-ups not as much, but still I'm fine because it's like they're fictional movies. It's not like it's not sacrilege. Those other movies, Saw 4 to Final Chapter, they'd still be there. They're not going away. If you want to do something new, great. Let's do this. Let's see where we could take the franchise, because that's the problem with Saw X is I think everyone agrees when you do all the twists at the end, you're in a box where you can only do a twist with this particular story. Saw was always known for, it was like an MCU where you got to watch all these and hey, it's Saw 8, but we're tying back to Saw 2, and you're like, oh my fucking God. Because this is a prequel now, you can't do that. You can't move past certain situations. You're stuck in this timeline. So I would be fine with like, yeah, fuck it. Let's change it up and let's have a new continuity and let's see where it takes us. And maybe some producers like, I worked on those films and that doesn't work, but it's like, or like, I don't like that, but it's like, we've seen how many franchises do this already. Just go with the flow. Try it out. See what happens. As Superman says, imagine we get Spiral 2 instead of this. Yeah. I would not want that. I definitely had, I really enjoyed Saw X. There's things about that I hate that we can't go in certain directions, but definitely prefer Saw X over Spiral big time. That's what it says. And now they already did the ultimate twist in Saw 10 where the twist was there was no twist. Yeah, that's off the table, right? But let me look one more time before I end this cast because I'm sorry, Clay. I thought I had one that I was really like, that's the one. And I'm not sure if it was horror. Because Saw just came to me. And like I said, the superhero stuff, like I'm worried about, but it's not anticipated. I guess the only other one too might be, this wasn't the one, but like, I wonder how 20 years later is going to play. Like that's one where I could see like a lot of hype, a lot of excitement, but if it's just kind of fine, that's going to be a gut punch is maybe over exaggerating, but I think the idea, the gimmick of 20 years later and Cillian Murphy is coming back eventually and this idea of a trilogy all being filmed at a similar time, like I think that could be tons of fun and I'm hoping for something really good, but that could also be meh. Yeah, Prayer Badlands. There's another one too. I'd say I'm not worried about it because I liked the last one, but that's one that like as Superman Mike just said, Prayer Badlands. It's tough because like I have nothing to worry about from the last movie, right? It's the same crew, just a new story, new take. I'm like, so from like, no, I'm good. So I don't have that same thing like you right now, Clay, with F1, where like I'm worried it could go a certain direction other than with Saw. But yeah, that's it for Traz Told You. Like I said, we're February 2nd now. So expect another episode in March. And I am doing a lot of like different ones as far like with the NFL, the football chat. We're doing that after 9 just about football, and we did a bunch of bets and the movie watched there. In a couple of weeks, we're going to do an Oscar predictions cast. So that's the same thing where that used to be a Trash Told You, but I had much more fun last year bringing on, people like Espos and Mike and doing a pool talking about it and that way. So you're going to get little, Travis solos with some additions. But yeah, and then sometime in March I'll do a Travis Told You. But yeah, I'll be back this week. We're figuring it all out because Dylan has moved and he's just waiting to get his Wi-Fi back. But this week we got Brave New World newscast predictions. There's supposed to be Fantastic Four trailer. We got the movie draft, um, video game draft, Marvel draft. All this stuff is recording this week. It might not be releasing right away, but that's why I go over Patreon and you can get that right away. But thank you everyone in the chat. Thank you everyone sending the questions. Like I said, there's a bunch of stuff I didn't get to, but they'll come up on newscast. Same thing. If there's newscast this week, if there's something that you're like, oh shit, I want to try to talk about that, send it my way and I will talk about it. So it's fun to be back. I'm very excited to see what the week. I'm excited to podcast now with the boys because I love doing. There's the two sides. I love doing this, just ranting. I love doing this live. I do apologize. I wanted to do it in the middle of the day, but the kids were sick, so they didn't go skiing this weekend, and I can't do a podcast in the middle of the day most of the time with all 5 kids. That's a little difficult. So that's why there's times like John was like, "Oh, do we have to do the NFL Patreon cast this day?" I'm like, yeah, that's the only day I got, brother. Like that's where the kids are gone. So that's all I got. But no, thank you. I'm happy to be back. Thank you to everyone that supported me while I was gone, supported the video, had some fun with me. And again, the people that sent me well wishes that thought I was going. I apologize if you feel like, oh, you motherfuckered me, was lying to my face or something. But I'm back, not going anywhere. As I said, if the ship goes down, I'd be going down, but they ain't going down. We're just starting. Going to be a good year. Thank you very much. And when you hear from me next, it'll not be